What's good, everybody? Welcome to the 5th episode of the TCG Core podcast. I am one of your hosts, Agent SD3, joined by Dan Davis and Frawley Cat. For a second there, it's like y'all's government names fully popped in my head because I was streaming on YouTube, and YouTube likes to out people's information, and it always throws me off every time when y'all pop into YouTube, and it's like, now that's you now. Anyway, before we jump into it, I feel like we have a lot of stuff to cover. EX4 comes out in like 2 weeks as of recording this video, which is wild because this upcoming week for my Dragon Ball people is the Dragon Ball set, and then the week after that is EX4, so I hope your wallet's all ready. But before that, how have you guys been? How's life treating everybody?
Good, man. I'm like you said, I'm excited. We got 2 back-to-back weeks of new cards, so can't ask for anything better. I'm ready.
The weather's been good. I feel like people are out and about having a good time, and I am still slaving away selling cardboard, but I do love it. And this whole month is lit up. Like, just to name like other games, like you have Lord of the Rings for Magic the Gathering this month, like as well as pre-release for this EX4 on the 16th and official release on the 25th.
Yeah, it's an intense time. So for those of y'all who, I know for some employers it's like bonus time this month and last month, you better have saved up some of your money because there's a lot of stuff going on. We were just talking before we started recording about the One Ring stuff for Magic. Somebody had mentioned it in my stream, and I think that's insane that there's like a one of that somebody's willing to pay $1 million for, and it's probably only gonna go up from here. I've thought about buying Magic stuff once or twice in life, and now I'm like, maybe a box isn't a bad idea. Anyway, since last time we talked, we had a updated ban list, or really limit list. It's 4 cards. They hit, for those of you guys who don't know, they hit Blossomon. Can't remember what set it's from, but they hit Blossomon. I think it's like the only Blossomon. They hit Impmon from EX2. They hit Wergarumon, the promo one. That's like the key card, really, in Melga. And then they hit Grand Kuwagamon. I'm going to let you guys take the floor first if anybody wants to share their thoughts on this limit and kind of what it means or doesn't mean for the game as it is now.
Yeah, I think there's 2 sides to it. I think on the positive side, it was like you said, the limitless I think we needed. I think it hit the right cards. Sure, everybody's always going to say, oh, they could have hit this, they could have hit that. I think knowing the power levels of the decks that those cards all go in, I think it's pretty on par. I think the negative side of it is it's about 4 months too late. 4 or 5 months too late. I think, Melga being prominent since BT9 all the way till now, kind of shows us, well, hey, yeah, it's going to stall the deck out, but I mean, the deck's already so played out, nobody's really going to play it anyways. I understand there's like the whole future proofing aspect, but I think in terms of like what we're dealing with now, same kind of thing with Grand Kuwagamon. I think the Impmon EX2 hit, I think we could really deep dive into that, but just saying like, okay, Impmon obviously hits the Beelzemon deck. There's many cards in that deck you could probably hit to try to slow it down. I do think out of all of them, the Impmon is the best one, because there's no other things that have to go into it to motivate, and there's so many ways to enable that card that you don't have to just chance it. Oh, I hope it's on the top, right? You can just guarantee it. So I think being able to say there's only one of that in the deck, there's some alternatives you can play, of course, but I think that one was pretty on par. I don't think you could hit too much else on top of that, because then you're like really just like signing away the deck completely. But yeah, I think overall it was a pretty solid list. I'd be curious to see, like I mentioned, future proofing, how it affects like the future stuff that's coming out. I know we'll talk about that later, but yeah, it's interesting.
I think I fully agree with Dan on there being 2 sides to this list. But for me, it's about hitting 2 decks that are doing really, really well, or rather have been like sticking around, and 2 decks that seem more targeted at like limited format. The Impmon, love that card restrict. Your purple, you already have so many ways of recursions, and being able to like get it into your hand, put it to the top of the deck with Imako, get it again, like the guarantee. They even break down their game design that they were like, man, you see one and then it can still be recycled, so it doesn't matter there's more. I really like it. I think this actually makes the deck more skill intensive.
Mm-hmm.
My shout outs though to all the Beelzemon players who are like, the other deck, Melga, got like a solid year under its belt before getting hit, and Beelzemon got 2 months. That's how it is sometimes. The Werguru hit, I think it honestly does kind of kill that deck. I don't see anything being as good in that slot. Especially with the fact that you would go into X antibody and get an extra check. So it was like check, unsuspend, check, go again. Okay, it's 2 checks,
Mm-hmm.
and then go into your final and unsuspend again. So good. I'm not surprised it got hit. My thoughts on Blossomon, I do fully agree with them saying that it limits design space for being able to like create new cards where it's like, man, like you can get up there so quickly that like we have a problem where things are just going to outpace everyone else. So now by limiting this and limiting the other Argomon to 2, I do think you make kind of guaranteed spots in people's decks for those 2. So you don't fully kill the things that can kind of get some abuse out of it. It almost looks like they're testing the grounds. They're like, we never put a card at 2. What if we kind of pseudo do that? And then we can monitor the situation from there. And then Grand Kawaga, I feel like that is strictly just a hit against Ultimate Cups. This is a deck that is dominating Ultimate Cups because of Grandis. Even though it's the most fair OTK, it's a great OTK. And I feel like this is the only one where I didn't fully believe their rationale. Where I was like, no, I feel like this targets something else. But yeah, I think it's an overall solid ban list. I have no complaints. I have nothing that I think I would have liked to see here more. And that was really good.
Yeah, it was interesting because it kind of made me go, let me look ahead. And I had put this in our group chat before, specifically so first off, I agree with what you guys said, but diving first a little bit more into the Melga hit, I was like, why? And then I looked ahead at the starter deck and was like, oh, this new Wergurumon is disgusting with everything else that deck does, and basically does the same thing. Yes, you don't get the extra check, but you do get the unsuspend anyway. You can trash cards. You can now build this purple blue monstrosity with Melga X in that deck. But I think it was weird because it was kind of like another Digimon content creator or card game content creator, had brought up like he felt like the ban list or the limit list was like half for Japan and half for everyone else, because obviously those other 2 decks are at their full power, at their apex right now in Japan, and we gotta wait like 4 or 5 months, which is kind of this weird thing of like the ban lists being the same across regions when Japan is so far ahead is kind of awkward. It makes sense, I guess, to not make 2 different ban lists for a region that's so specific, like in Japan. Like it doesn't really make sense to have 2 different design philosophies for both like regions. So I can see why they did that, but I also think sometimes you get weird ban lists like this where like if you're not someone who's looking ahead, you're like, why the hell did they do this? It doesn't make any sense. And then you do kind of a read ahead, like, oh yeah, that does open up the design space quite a bit and gives them really a lot of room. I'm also curious to see what this means for Melga going forward, because I feel like Agumon and Greymon, I mean, it's the Charizard / Pikachu of Digimon, right? But gets so much love that like I wonder if now with the new designer that they have coming in working on the game, if that person's gonna give Melga a little more attention, because that starter deck, if you guys haven't seen it, and we'll get into the Blast 8 stuff, is disgustingly good. If you want to go and watch some videos, there's some other content creators have put out like just gameplay of those 2 decks at their full power, and the Blast 8 stuff, which I'm jumping ahead a little, just a teeny bit, but the Blast 8 stuff I think is going to be a lot of fun, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, I agree with what you guys said in a nutshell about the limit list. It was an interesting series of choices, but I think overall good for the game.
Yeah, I still think that blue Werguru ends up going in this deck. If it, the only thing it sucks about is that it can only go on top of blue because it doesn't have that new fixing text we have. But I still think that makes its way into this deck.
100%, yeah, because you could just evolve on top of the Gurumon X, right? You just do that, you go on the X, and now you're good. But yeah, I definitely think it goes in the deck still. Cool. So now that we kind of jumped into the limits, I guess EX4 is around the corner, so we could jump straight into kind of like predictions, what you guys are excited about, and all that kind of, if anything, to be honest, because this is definitely like I feel like a middle of the road type of set. If you like protagonist Digimon, you'll probably love the set. If you don't care, then you might want to skip it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll say this. Anybody who's seen me play, I know Agent and I have played a lot, and he knows that like I'm loving this deck. But I feel like this set for me specifically is I'm on 2/3 now of Shine Greymon, because there's one more after this that I finally get. We got the first one in BT12. We get this in EX4, and then you get your final wave of Shine stuff in BT13. But yeah, that's I think what I'm most excited about. If I had to pick a second one, it's just gonna be the new Omni Alter. Was it Alter S, Alter B?
Alter S, Alter B.
Yeah, with Cress and Blitz Greymon. So between those two, I'm really excited to try out.
It sounds about right.
I feel a little attacked on that one because I feel like this is the set I'm looking forward to the most.
Oh.
And I didn't mean to. I do find this with all these weird side sets. There's all this cool stuff that we get to play with that feel really good. My only fear, as per usual, is that like not a lot of decks make it out of a EX set. Really, Machine Dramon is lucky enough, and he was a secret to do so. But like, usually some of these decks fall off. But like you said, Shine Greymon stuff, Rise Greymon stuff too, because you can kind of run those decks separately, or you run them together, or you like that deck is so versatile. I love it. Chaos Gallant gets a little bit of love. Victory Greymon gets a little bit of love. You got the Medieval Gallant. I'm not super hype on those decks, but like it's just stuff that I already have pieces lying around to. So if someone finds cool tech, I want to have the ability to do it. Personal shout out of what I like about this coming out. The Ultra S deck looks wacky. I like it a lot. It's super fun. I want to put Rena in it. I don't even think it's good, but just the fact that I might get a free Agu or a free Gabu summon and be able to like start comboing off with like the reduced memory costs. I really like the Sakuyamon line. Really interesting to put yellow blue fully in a deck. I feel like that's a very option card heavy deck. It feels really cool though that you can run new things and everything being like saving itself with the searching by also having its other name makes all the previous support really good for it. There's 3 separate bunny decks, and yet you could run them all together, or you could run them all separate, or you can just focus on the one you like. That I'm really cool about. Pet decks for me, for Dark Nightmon, or people who like Blue Flare, you get stuff. I don't know if all of it's good. Shout out to the new Dark Male Bergermon, that just makes me unblockable. Really appreciate you. I can't wait to have you, honestly. Dark Seraphimon, I don't think it sees love yet, but could in the future. And Black Yellow is getting a lot of stuff coming up. And then finally, I think Ravemon. Ravemon being a really wacky purple deck that's going to swing, blow itself up, come back so you can't interact with it. So you're going to have to run stuff that like can't be played by effects. I think we have a bunch of solid decks in here. I'm actually really excited.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's a lot of stuff that's going to have longevity in here, right? Because it's like both new stuff for old stuff, things that might spiral into their own sort of monstrous creations. Because every time I see new Greymon, Gallantmon stuff, and they're all these wacky colors, I'm like, you could do like, for Greymon, you could do like a red, black, yellow thing. I don't know what that would look like, but Dan and I have talked about it in passing on stream occasionally, and I feel like there's something there. I don't know what crazy person could build something that works, but I think that's really cool. For me, it's the Alter S deck. Like, that's what I'm most excited for, because it's just gonna be cool. And I think it's going to have longevity. I also love the fact that Alter S is the first card that I can think of where it's like, if you do anything to me, if I move, if I get Digivolved, I get to spit out 2 new bodies. So Hunters, it's kind of like, I don't really care because I get my guys right back. I'll do it over again. Chaos Degrade is like, cool, thanks. It was going to go to security anyway, so I'll just spit out 2 more bodies and just do it again. I'm really excited to see how that plays. I don't expect it to be like super competitive, to be completely honest. It feels like it's one of those decks where it's gonna be rogue to me, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think that's kind of where it's gonna sit. I don't mind, I don't know about you guys, but especially for you, Dan, playing Shine, I don't necessarily mind these sets where like the cards are phased out, right? Where like we saw this with Alphamon initially, where it took 3 sets for that deck to like come together, because I kind of like the idea of people not being able to bandwagon, which I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't need to sound like one of those people. But like, I like the idea of not being able to bandwagon onto, okay, everybody's playing the same deck right now because all the cards are there,
Yep.
where everybody can kind of find their groove a little bit and then kind of go and mix and match in their own sort of ways. I think that's interesting, and better for the game, because Digimon, I feel like we print the same goddamn Digimon every few sets. It's like the same cards, they're just different, which is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that overall. But that being said, like, I like when they do these phased releases because it lets things slide under the radar sometimes. And for those people who are really dedicated to certain Digimon, I feel like it almost rewards you for being like, hey, we got you, not in over the course of the next few sets.
Yeah, and I think, at least for me, I think what it's done for me with like Shine, let's talk about Shine specifically, is, you know, there's a quote unquote like cookie cutter way to run Shine right now, right? Because all the Shine pieces that we have, like before EX4 available, you'd run it a certain way. But we, like, if you guys know, or if anybody else, you know, who's watched me play knows, I play it the yellow hybrid way. Granted, I'm partial to yellow hybrid, but I wanted to try a different way of playing it. And because you don't have all your pieces yet, it kind of put me in a position of, well, I can get creative because the full power cards aren't out yet. And I feel like if you're able to do that, and if Bandai and Digimon like continues to do that, maybe, hopefully, and this has been one of my soapboxes that I've stayed on for the longest time, of creative deck building. I understand, like, you know, in certain formats, in certain situations, you want to, like you said, you want to kind of go with what's meta, what's this, that, whatever. But it's like the whole thing for me of playing these type of card games is like, be creative. So by staggering their releases, it kind of, to me, it kind of promotes that, because it's like, well, I know I could run this card, but that card doesn't come out for 3 months. So what can I run in its place, or what could I make it, you know, do it that way? And that's kind of what I try to gear my deck building towards lately, anyways. With, like I said, the yellow hybrid Shine. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I like that there's a lot of creative design space. I like the 3 rabbit decks. I feel like it's gonna be really interesting to see people be like, well, all of them go into Lop or to Terriermon, so you really open up your rookie base. You're gonna have weird armor forms. Like, you could go into Rapidmon armor form and like take care of some stuff, as well as like going up, and you could even run on the purple version of the deck. So I like that you really do. It does feel like it has a little bit of a creative space to play in. I'm a little worried that Alter S is gonna be the purple red Imperial Dramon again. It's really, really good for a month, and then everything in like Royal Knights whoops its ass. Like, but like Examon got an extra format afterwards, but Examon really was the be all end all of the EX format. So I like that Alter S though is not your secret. He's just an SR. Like Alter B, you probably want to run 1 or 2, but I like the idea that you might be able to get away with this deck out of like 1 box and a couple of trades if people aren't prioritizing it. But I do feel like that is the #1 hyped deck coming out of this, even to the point where Bandai, if you look at their official release, they're now giving like bullet points for the set, like what's coming out, here's some deck builds. They broke down the evolution combo of like, ooh, I play an Agumon, that lets me play a Gabumon, cool, that Gabu says I can Digivolve, cool, and like it does the reduction, it actually shows the flow chart. And I'm like, man, you're showing off the flow. Like, everyone knows that there's one wacky combo that a lot of people are gonna be going for the next little bit.
Yeah, you know, what's interesting about that too is like, yeah, I think that there will be a lot of people who will jump on it, and I think that's cool. That's fine. That's great. But I also think it's going to be interesting. And we were talking about this in my Discord with who was there, Sarge and Mikey, and I were all workshopping like, what are some fun random things you could throw in the deck, because they were kind of trying to figure out what other rookie Agus to put. My suggestion is definitely the newest Agumon from BT12, because you can search out your Tamers, you can search out your Greymons, you can put the Greymon, the new Greymon in there from BT12, so you can play out your Tamer, your tie for free, your tie mat, or whatever other tie Tamer you want to put. You could run, if you wanted to, the tie mat that gives your Omnimons an extra check. Like, I think there's a lot of fun little slots in that deck to do different interesting things. I think it's just going to be kind of like people wanting to take the time to really learn it, because I also wonder if it's going to be one of those decks where people are going to play like the vanilla version. By vanilla version, I mean like the most common deck list that you'll probably see posted, and then they'll forget about it. But then you'll have a handful of people who are like, I am with Examon, where like, I'm committed to this deck, I will keep it every format, and I will make a way to make it work. And I think with that deck in particular, for the players who are dedicated or whatever, you will be able to, because it's freaking Agumon and Gabumon. Like I think there will always be some way to retool the deck and do something silly with it. and see how it works.
Yeah,
That's a
sorry,
great
I was just
point.
like, oh my bad, Farley. So I was
No.
gonna say no. I had one amendment because I don't know why I omitted this. Sorry. So it's because it's not a deck. It's not a deck that I'm looking at. It's literally just one new piece that I'm super excited for is the new Gaiomon, because you get to make Gaiomon tribal, and I think that deck is going to be super underrated.
Yes.
Maybe just looking at it on paper, but like reading through the card text and like what it does and like all the other support too, because it does still count as a Greymon, so that your new black ties will work for it. So it's like it just gives you like the Gaiomon Metal Gray X combo that we currently have is already oppressive enough because it swings like so big with protection. It burns something on unsuspend and gets blocker for the turn because of your ties. Yep. You can essentially now either delete a big body with the new Gaiomon or trash another security. So in just one stack alone, you're going for 4 checks. 2 of them are unchecked. So I think that this and again, just having blocker and protection on the crackback like that deck's gonna be insane in my opinion.
I agree.
So yeah, I'm really excited for that. Literally that one card. I'm excited for.
Any other niche picks? I already shout out Male Bergermon. I do like that Dark Knightsmon, like you were saying about Alter S, where it doesn't matter where I'm going, I'm getting my bodies. We don't fully get that for Dark Knight, but we do get, hey, if you put me in hand or trash, hand or deck, and you do that, I still will get my bodies out from underneath. Like that does feel a little nice, because any removal deck feels like you're building a stack for a different reason, so when it gets extra interrupted, you're further behind.
Yeah. I don't know if this is niche. I guess. For me, it's building around Victory Greymon as like a top end for a Greymon deck. One, the alt art is so beautiful that it has to be used in something. If you guys haven't seen it, maybe for those of y'all watching, I'll probably try and pop it up here at some point. But it is such a beautiful artwork. So for those of you who don't know what it does, it's a 4-cost Evo, 12 play cost, 12,000 DP. When digivolving, you delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 6k DP or less. Then for each Digimon your opponent has in play, you increase that number by 2,000. So basically like Gallantmon type of stuff. So if they go wide, you can really punish that, and I love that. All turns, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, if you have a Tamer in play, you can delete their highest DP Digimon, which I think is a fascinating concept. If you take like the black-red Metal Greymon lets you swing into unsuspended things, cool, I'm gonna swing into your rookie and kill your boss monster off of my effect. Like, I just think that's really interesting. Or you give him blocker with tie. Oh, I block something that has nothing to do with your big body, and then I killed it because of Victor Grammon's effects, and this is all turns. Like, I think there's something there. I just got to figure out like what the other steps are, and if it's gonna be on par with the bajillion other Greymon decks, because there's so many options. But he feels like a really cool card. I want him to do good things, but I'm afraid it won't.
Well, what's another little interesting thing there too to mention is it also presents itself as kind of a tool of obstruction, because like you said, it's all turns, right? And it doesn't specify how something gets deleted. So if your opponent just wants to say, oh, I'm just going to swing into security, and that thing gets deleted, and they're like, okay, I have my big body, I just set him up, whatever. Well, now you don't, because now your little thing that you just swung with is dead because of the security check, and so is your big body. I didn't have to do anything, you did it to yourself. So it makes them think twice about swinging, because I'm like, well, because maybe they don't want to swing with their big body, because that's like their form of like, you know, board presence or whatever. But in order for them to put on aggression, they have to swing with something else, and if that dies, then they lose it anyways. Yeah. So yeah, I do think it's an interesting card. I'm with you. I mean, I actually was just, while you were talking, I was looking up the alt art for it, and it is pretty sick.
Yeah.
Oh man, I almost wonder, like, it's really cool that this becomes another toolbox card we were talking about for like Greymon's thing. Like, I guarantee you could build a deck out of this, but especially on a 2-body board, this guy feels the most punishing. I'm just like, can I delete the one? Cool, the other one's going. I do think this will be seen in some decks with Greymon in the name, just to like, as a tech, as just, oh man, I need to remove their big body. How do we do that without punching them? Here's a cool trick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, that's just, I just think that's so cool. So like for me, like, again, I don't know if it's niche because it's Greymon, but you know, I feel like there's something there, and I'm ready to explore that.
Yep.
Yeah, well, hey, so this Friday, will be pre-release if you can get down to any of your locals, or you get it early on pre-release. And then 25th, this will be live. So there's even some store championships that are still going because they got delayed. They'll be till the end of this month. So if you're like my store, we just had our first one during the first week, and now we're going to be in a completely different meta for the second store championship.
That's dope.
Nice.
You have to let us know like what you see, because I'm really curious to see like at a local level. Like I'm always fascinated by it. I'm sure that you guys are too, but I'm always fascinated by like what people say they see at their locals. Because in some regions it's like who's playing this, and, I'm really curious to see what you see.
Yeah, I always try to post our top 3 winners to like add to more databases like Digimon Meta. And I love that of being like, hey, like you've got top 3, can I please have a photo of your deck? I already have your deck list, like I'm just gonna submit that. And yeah, you're right, you never know who's gonna potentially snake a victory, especially at a local level.
Yep.
Actually, I haven't confirmed this yet because I've been lazy, as in I've been too in Dragon Ball to pay attention. I kept seeing people saying that you can't win the invites anymore from locals, like local tournaments. That is true, right?
100%.
So what are y'all's initial thoughts on that period?
Okay, so I like actually organizing tournaments, actually dealing with tournament kits. I have a little bit of an opinion on this. The only thing that I do like is, as compensation, your entry packs, those gold cards. They're really, really nice. Actually, I have like mine from here. So I got a Hades Force.
Oh my god, that looks so good.
Yeah, this is like 30 to 40 Canadian, like near release. Yeah. I don't know what's at now. They're going to get less as like circulation starts.
Yeah.
But they're gorgeous. So like they really did compensate this year as like because I was like, I don't get an invite. Why am I playing? Like not to that's what it should be. I love playing my locals, but like where is my extra incentive? They did top 4 packs this year, which is really cool. So you get 4 packs, and they have like they all say top 4, and they have like they're all missing like 1 card, I think, or sometimes they double up on some. And then the store champ literally just got 1 extra card and a top 4 pack. So I really think pricing goes well. My only problem is I hate this because where's my extra reason to train? And my solution to Bandai, and I posted this to them because we're allowed to leave feedbacks on a bunch of stuff every time I place orders. So my last 2 have been, hey man, can we go back to the original rules? In the very first year of Digimon, if you played a locals and your locals did not have 16 people, you did not win an invite. I think that would go back to solving some of our problems. If you're worried about too many people are winning at the local level, and then the Nats whole thing, if you just say, hey, locals, gotta have this many people. I don't want to limit rule players because that feels shitty. But at the same time, like that rule's already been in place, so I could see them pivoting back to it. We do have 2 more store championships coming up near the end of the year. Those will be announced later. They always do 2 in a year, so maybe those ones we'll get that fixed for. Sorry, Dan.
No, you're good. You're good. No, I'm actually glad you offered your opinion, because you kind of having the back end view of everything, being at a store and knowing that. I obviously provide the perspective of your typical like blue collar player, right? Like I'm the one who goes to these locals. I'm the one that's like trying to grind it out and go. And I think to simplify my explanation is I don't like it from that type of, if I'm just a regular kind of casual Joe player who like, yeah, I'll play in a regional, once or twice, just, for whatever. But I think what I'm thinking is from everything that I've heard is that their intent was, like you said, to try to limit the attendance to like an event like nationals, right? Because if everybody is winning, these quote unquote like little store champs, that you can't really validate the quote unquote like the skill level there, right? And no shade to anybody who plays in them, but anybody could show up to these. Anybody could, like you said, anybody could get lucky. Anybody could just win a store champs. But when you're attending, a 512 plus player regional, whether it's IRL or online, you got to have more than just a little bit of luck. You know what I mean? You're talking mental fortitude of like playing, 9+ rounds and like, all those kind of things, right? So I do agree with it on that standpoint. What I think though, I didn't even consider, that option. What I come from with Pokemon is they operate off a point system. They set a set amount of points every season. and you just have to get that, and you can get that through a variety of different methods, right? They have small things, small tournaments like challenges that offer a small amount of points, cups that do league cups that a mediocre amount, and then you go into your regionals and then your international championships that offer considerably more. I think personally that's better only because it still promotes the idea of grinding for your Nats invites, but it makes it more accessible to those people who maybe don't have the means to show up or get into a lot of these regionals, especially as we all know that trying to get into an online regionals is near impossible because they sell out,
crazy these days.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's like, how can you justify saying, well, you can't just like slum it and just get it you need to get it at a regional. It's like, well, I literally can't get it at a regionals because I can't get in. Like, I'm ready with the refresh button, Apple Pay's ready to go, but I can't get in. So like, you can't really say you're not getting in because you're not good enough. You're saying I can't get in because I literally can't get in.
Yeah.
So I think being able to do it where it's like, okay, store champs won't give you a Nats invite, but it may give you 10, 15 points out of, say you need 300, 400, whatever a limit you want to set. Okay, well then you're going to have to go to a lot of these store champs. You know what that's also going to do? It's also going to promote more people consistently going to those events, and you're talking more product bought, more better turnouts for locals because people are going to consistently be showing up. Because that's the other thing. If I'm somebody who shows up at a store champs and I get my luck and I win one, do I need to go to another one? No, I got it. Well, I can go to one, win one, get X amount of points, but still have to come back because I still need to get more points. So, in my opinion, I look at it from where I come from with Pokemon, and I really like that system. So, like, thinking of it as just a regular comp player, I wouldn't mind seeing them go to something like that.
As a small addendum, quick, the fact that they do like a store can do 4 store championships in a year, they really should have like a final 4 come together. Of like, hey, you 4 are going to play. We're gonna do like a best, like you're all gonna play each other one round. Winner gets the invite. Even if you did something like that, some way of making that's like, because 4 people from every local is going to be too many people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting about that though? To me, it's like, okay, but what's the difference between that, the way the store championships are, unless they do away with this at the finals again, and LCQs, right? Because like you go and you play with like 8 people or whatever minute number it is, and it doesn't really mean anything. Like it does, like you get to play, but like it's like the same level of competition, I would argue, as folks that are locals. The only difference is these are the people who could afford to come to wherever the locals are. So people are being priced out, which I think is its own issue, right? That like, to me, I'm not saying they should do away with LCQs before somebody like agent said. I'm just saying that like, to me, if you're gonna get rid of that, then like, are you gonna have LCQs? Yes or no? Because if you are, to me, that says that you, as in Bondi or as in any business, it's like we want to take that foot traffic away from the stores and bring it to like the finals. Because like, to me, to your point, Dan, it makes sense to do something to where you have a kind of a symbiotic relationship with the stores, because now people are going every single week and it's the same people, new people, because they're incentivized. Like, I won, I want to keep playing. And also, you don't have that toxic mentality. I don't know if you guys have seen this, where like people win and they go and they play again and they win again and they basically block the invite from somebody else and people get pissed at that person, which I do think is like a valid, I mean, that kind of happened to me, but like I understand that feeling, but like, I also think that like a point system would mitigate that. It might be healthier for keeping people playing and active. You have less situations where people are like, I don't really feel like playing in this event because it has no meaning for me. I've gotten all my prizes, I've gotten all the shit I want, so I'm just gonna not go. But that's interesting. I just was really curious about you guys' perspective about it.
Yeah, it's probably one of the few choices Bandai has made this year for this game that I was like, there has to be a solution to this. Maybe this brain tank is not going to be the one that gets us there, but like, please re-look at it, or at least I hope they have stuff in motion to look at it. Mm-hmm. And I do love your point too. Like, if that guy had already won a store championship, he could have tried to sell you the second store championship, right? I mean, like, hey man, like I already got my invite. You want me to drop? Like, you want to split some prizing? Like, you open up those opportunities. I will say though, since that since that announcement, I've actually got less snipers from like surrounding areas. Like none of my guys went up to London, and none of my guys and none of the guys like crossed the border to come over to play in like the Canadian locals.
Interesting. Okay, yeah,
so
that makes sense. Yeah,
it's weird to see it on both sides, right? Where you're like, I like that it's not like people aren't sniping, but it's like, but what is my incentive to play?
Yeah. It's just so weird. Like me personally, it's kind of like, well, I guess I'm not going to Nats because I don't see myself, for a variety of reasons, top 16 or whatever in Digimon to get an invite. I also don't know if I care enough because by the time we get to round 7 or 8, I'm either hungry or I'm ready to just be like, good dog, I'm done. This was fun and all, but like, y'all are killing me. So yeah, no, it's very, I don't know, it's interesting. Sorry, the guys, we took like a brief little intermission. So if you notice a little cut here, as y'all know, I got 2 cats and they do demon things occasionally, and so we were taking care of demon business. Anyway, we were talking about the tournaments and how they change stuff up. Frawley, I feel like there's you got something you want to say.
Oh, you dropped that on me, my dude. We did not. That was not in the prep list.
It wasn't.
You knew I was gonna be heated, but oh man, the best part was I forgot about it because it upset me, but I kind of like moved past it, and then you're just like, oh hey man, do you remember this thing? And I'm like, yeah, I do remember this terrible thing. Getting flashbacks.
No, triggering for all these PTSD guys. That's what we do over here. We just occasionally flip a switch and see what happens. Oh shit. So, moving on then to something that we had talked about before that, we're all prepared for. Ace cards, Blast Evolutions, counters. I said this before, I wanted counters. I called it out. We can go back and play the highlight. I predicted this. Anyway, I'm like high now. I don't know what's up. Anyway, Blast Evolutions, Ace cards. What are y'all's initial thought? Like, I'm sure you had a chance to look at things. What are you what are your thoughts? Just start there.
So it's funny for me because if you had asked me that when we found out about them, I'd say a few months ago, I would be like super on the fence about it because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going to be like Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's going to be all this hand trappy stuff. And I don't want to deal with this or whatever. But now with my exuberant amount of experience in Dragon Ball, I'm actually all for it because I think it adds another skill element to it. Because now instead of saying, oh, I'm just going to swing and do this or whatever, I have to now anticipate, well, if my opponent has this, how can I counter that? So and I think we mentioned this we touched on it last episode, the episode before, whatever it was, that it's adding additional layers to the game. Yeah, it's a new mechanic, it's this, whatever, people can have their thoughts on it. But when you just add another type of layer of complexity to a game, it's in turn going to increase the amount of skill level associated with it. Because now you're having to, like, and Agent said this a lot too, is like, you have to play these mind games. We do that all the time in our games. Like, he'll do something because he knows, like, granted, we play a lot, so we kind of know each other's like mentalities when it comes to things. But disregarding that, it's like he knows, like, if he's going to play this or do make a certain move and then pass turn, it's going to make me think, oh, well, he might have this. So now I have to, like, so I think the Blast Evolutions and the Ace cards and everything are going to do exactly that. In the upcoming formats, like when they get introduced, and we've only had a handful of them like announced. I'd be curious to see what other ones that they do, and how they really affect the game. But yeah, I'm all for it. Give me them, all of them. Give me all the hand counters, all the Blast Evolutions. Just keep them coming.
Yeah, that set's not fully revealed yet. It's also still being peeled out in Japan. We're 88 cards in, I want to say, like at maybe this exact moment. There's some cool stuff. I think aces are a really interesting point. I've talked about people where I'm like, ooh, like I get to like Blastage Evolve. And it's like, well, that's not really going to stop a lot of people from like still attacking the stack and getting it done. And that might be a terrible idea. But I do like that you open up older players to this idea of like they're used to playing something. It's really going to trip some people up at first. We talked quite a bit about this. I think either our last show, I think it was our last show, where this stuff was just being talked about. We talked about how it made like removal healthier. I really enjoyed that. See some return on investment for other kind of removals that aren't as fleshed out. Like I love de-digivolve, but sometimes it feels like I'm paying a lot and not getting the full result that I could get from another color. So rewarding that a little bit of being like, oh, like no, but you can remove their ace, do a bunch of stuff, and not pay as much. Really excited about Ace Digimon. I think we have 4 revealed right now. We have the metal. Oh, well, like besides, no, so including the starter deck. So in the main set, we have 4 so far revealed. There was a Diaboromon Ace that got teased on a box, but I have no idea where that is. I hope it's in this set. It's not revealed yet. If I had to guess, they were like teasing for this set. So I'm rubbing my hands. I'm waiting. I'm always waiting. But yeah, with the starter decks, they both have an ace. They have a level 5 ace, or they have level 6 aces. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then in the main set, we have like 2 level 5s. We have the Metal Gray Red, and we have the Zudamon. Oh, it's Lilimon and Magnangemon. They're all level 5s in the main set so far. Mm-hmm. So maybe we're just waiting on it.
And Lilymon too.
Lilymon.
Yeah. I really am excited to see the back and forth. I would like a little bit more back and forth. Playing more interactive games like Magic the Gathering recently has got me wanting to be like, I don't like the Yu-Gi-Oh concept because Yu-Gi-Oh focuses so much on cards being resources that discarding a hand trap is really detrimental to them, right? You go down a card, it's way harder to draw in Yu-Gi-Oh. But I do like the Magic response of like, if you're going to do this spell, there could be a downside. Like, I liked the idea of pitching Sid's idea for counters of like, oh, like, I have to pay it immediately. Like, if I'm going to give you 3, you could even continue your turn if you want, but like, I have to get rid of or interrupt this combo. And I hope that Ace and the counter step, like, I feel like this is going to be a really pivotal year for Digimon going forward with Blast Ace. If the mechanics are as big as they're doing. But I could just be like under the idea of like false hype because like I just want so much for this game that I'm dreaming up scenarios that aren't going to happen.
You know, I think you're 100% right. I like about what I mean is I don't think you're dreaming of anything. I think how you're perceiving it is how it's going to feel just based off the stuff I've watched from other content creators. I mean, the starter deck matches between Metal Guru and War Greymon have been insane. Like, especially, okay, me being a War Greymon fanboy, whatever, but like with the War Greymon, like it has blocker. It all turns when something is redirected, it restands. Like it's just nutty. And like it really changes up how you think about removal for both players because, you know, now you can play Gaia Force and it won't cost you 8. It'll cost you maybe 4 or whatever it's going to be with the overflow. And like now when you strip out sources, if you evolve on top of your ace, you might be screwed. Like there's just so much more thought and like other colors I think become more meta relevant, like black now because of Digivolve. I think it becomes incredibly more relevant because you can, cool, I'm an ulti flare, I'm gonna clear your board and it only costs me 4, right? Or whatever it is, and now you're at 1. Or whatever absurd number it is. Or, you know, blue has always been good, but like source stripping becomes even more disgusting, right? Because cool, I just get rid of your ace or whatever it is that way. And I think it just adds enough complexity to the game that I feel like it really needed in terms of getting away from feeling like every time you play, this is just RNG the game, right? And like, I wouldn't say, again, that like I feel that way every time, but there are certain games where I'm like, shit, I don't even feel good about winning or losing here because I only won because of my security was stacked, right? Or I lost because their security was stacked. And like, to me, that doesn't feel necessarily good, especially when I'm playing with my friends. It's like, oh man, like, I'm sorry. Like, it just doesn't, it's not fun. Or at least it just makes me feel off. Because I don't really like trolling, despite what some of y'all maybe think because I play Examon, but like I don't really get a high off of trolling people with certain deck types.
Yeah, I think to expand on your point again, just coming now from the experience that I have with Dragon Ball, whereas Dragon Ball is very interactive between the two players. You know, there's a lot of back and forth. Whereas, like you said, Digimon has kind of gotten to this point of I'm gonna build up my thing, you build up your thing, and let's just hope that like like there's some, don't get me wrong, there's some form of interaction, right? Because like,
Mhm.
you know, I can do a couple things or whatever, but yeah, to your point, it's basically got to a thing of like, I just hope I don't, like, I can get through the security check. Like I'm gonna, like I was watching somebody play like Bloom Lord, for instance, right? And they had an immaculate setup, everything was great. Their first check, I think they hit into like an ulti flare or something, and it's like, why spend all that time to do your entire setup? And you played it well, like it no, like the player did did what they were supposed to for everything to literally be broken by just a random. And it's like, how can you say that like that is skillful? Like the player who had like got that kind of security, probably thinking like, "Ooh, thank God," you know, like I'm lucky, you know. Rather, and that's the thing. It's like, how can you be like, well, how can you be good at a game when you're just like you just get lucky, you know? That's gonna be eroded. That statement right there. Moving forward, what I do like about these is that the biggest sense of interaction between two players in this game is the memory, right?
Mhm.
Like with Dragon Ball, with Pokemon or whatever, you choose when you pass your turn.
Mhm.
Like you can do as much stuff as you want, and it's like, okay, I have nothing left to do. All right, I guess I'll go ahead and pass. Where it's Digimon, it's your turn passes when you've played too much stuff. Like in any game, I can basically play down my whole hand and have no repercussions for anything because I'm like, I don't have, you know. Whereas with Digimon, it's like, I play this thing for 4. I've only got 3 memory. I guess my turn passes, you know? Where, like Agent was saying, is, you know, I can do this now, and there's even more memory manipulation because of the overflow mechanic. So, like I said, being able to expand on that interaction, I think is just going to make the game more skillful.
I do think the security thing too. You gotta attribute like this. This is what we put back to deck building, where it's
Mhm.
like the guy who decided to put bombs in his deck versus the guy who didn't decide to put bombs in his deck. Sometimes you get bodied. Like or like I run security Digimon in the door brick run. I was doing like 4 of them, and every now and then there was 2 games that won me because it's just like, okay, they have me all set up. They got me KO'd. Cool. They check security. There's a body on board. Can you deal with it?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's definitely RNG though. Like I can't deny that. Oh man, as like a final weird thing to the aces though that I'm noticing is like you look at all the ones that have been revealed for the level 5s. They all have really good effects, but there's a blank box on all of them, and it's their inheritables. Their inheritables are empty. And I think this is going to speak to stuff later with hopefully overflow being balanced more for like how powerful an effect it is. Because if those things do eventually get inheritables, which most likely they will, as power creep does in all games, like some of these cards are going to be little units on themselves and like little activators for engines and stuff out of nowhere. Because we've seen, like you were saying, the Metal Gray or the War Gray and the Metal Guru, and those are level 6s. So of course they don't have inheritables; they have all the crazy big effects. But so far, it doesn't look like they almost want you to evolve on top of them. It's almost supposed to be a body you hard play. They add a little bit of, just hard play stuff for big value because we're noticing that you guys are just building these stacks that are harder and harder to remove.
Yeah. I mean, they really want to live up to this is the boss of your deck or whatever. Hence the the ace thing, right? Which I think is interesting. And kind of like to your point, and kind of cushioning what Dan had said earlier. Cushioning might be the wrong word, but adding additional context too. With like, yeah, I think that like with this game, like skill is a thing. I just think that it's too easy to get tilted from security. And I mean, that's going to happen in any game. That happens in fucking Dragon Ball sometimes because it's like, oh, they had the thing. I couldn't do anything about it. But I just like that Blast Ace adds like this extra level of like, even after I do all that, the security is still like the great equalizer of the game. And sometimes it's amazing. Other times it makes you want to just hit a wall, and like, I'm just looking forward to this extra layer that like really adds to mind games because I love that about card games. Dan knows this, especially with Dragon Ball and the decks I play. I think mind games and card games are the fucking best. And I feel like now with Dragon Ball, Jesus, with Digimon, like it really drives that home. To where like the security, there are times where people are like, I don't want to swing because I'm afraid there's a Gaia Force in there. And it's like, well, I don't even know what's in there. So like, I don't, but now it's like, I really might have a bomb for you in my hand that I can just, okay, blast evolution. Cool. And like, I feel like it's not like a boogeyman as much of like oh no, like there's a much higher chance that like something will happen to me if I swing or whatever that my opponent does it fully intentionally, which I just think that's good.
Yeah, I to kind of caveat what I was saying, what I meant by that is like Digimon is a skillful game in the sense that like it does take skill to navigate your deck's play style and like, you know, position yourself in a way of like, okay, if my opponent has this, then I'll set myself up this way. I mean, all card games do that, right? It's a back and forth between two players. That's the whole intention of it. What gets me is, you know, as compared to something like Pokemon or Dragon Ball or, you know, I've played a couple games with like Lorcana, like, you know, whatever, but like games like that I've played, I can't speak on the other ones, but there's like when you're trying to advance your win con of, you know, let me, you know, knock out my opponent's Pokemon, or let me get to this, or let me, you know, take my opponent's life all the way down to 0 or whatever. There's no real repercussions for the player who's trying to advance their board state, right? It's just kind of like, does my opponent have it? Which in my mind, I'm thinking that's kind of the true essence of a back and forth game between two people. I do something, you have to respond. I do something, you have to respond, and vice versa. And it goes back and forth, right? That's the. But when you're attacking freely into security and your opponent's like, well, let's just see what happens. Like, I think that's where the skill aspect is removed from the game. So like you said, it's still going to be there because security, just like memory, just like, you know, hatching, raising, is just going to be a part of the game. I think having these types of things will say, okay, look, yes, I still have to do the whole security deal, whatever. But now, like, I have to consider, does my opponent have the answer for what I'm about to do? Like you said, the blast digivolving or whatever. And I truly do like that. I don't know how. The only amendment I'll make is I don't know how that's going to work paired with still again the security issue of, well, if I swing into this, not only can they punish me on a blast evolution counter, but then I can also get punished on my security swing. So that, I think that'd be the only caveat to it. But I don't know, we'll see how it goes.
Do you guys feel like there should be a limitation to how many can be run in a deck, similar to like super combos I know in Dragon Ball? Like, is there a call? Should this be something that it's like, hey, you can run 4 in a deck, we don't care which 4 they are, but you're limited to 4 or something like that? Or do you think they're at a point where it's like, well, you know what, if you want to run all like all Ace Digimon, I guess you can.
I think this is the dad joke in me. I think because of the whole like 4 aces in a deck, you know, like in a playing card deck, I think you could easily keep it on, you know, that theme of you can, like you said, you can only have 4 aces in the deck. They can be whatever 4 aces, just like in Dragon Ball. I can run 4 red super combos and they can be different ones. Like they don't all have to be the same thing. But I think given already what we've seen, again, like you mentioned, we haven't seen any inheritables, we haven't seen any whatever. But just the few ace cards that we've seen already and how powerful they can be, even considering the overflow mechanic, I think if you had so many ace cards, so many counter or blast evolutions, I do think it would tilt the game in too far of a direction. I mean, think about it. Like if somebody who plays Dragon Ball, could you imagine having 12 super combos in a deck, 16 super combos in a deck, and it's just like, cool, I'm gonna power this thing up infinitely, no limitations, draw through my deck, like just I do think that's a little too overpowered, in my opinion.
Me personally, based on what we've seen so far, no, I don't think they should be limited, but I wouldn't be opposed to them being limited, if that makes sense. Like, looking at them, it's like, yeah, there's so much removal in this game that's like, okay, fine, play your whatever, I'm just gonna kill it. Like, the only issue I would have is Greymon stuff, because I'm like, cool, I'm protected this turn. But like everybody else, it's like, okay, here's a Gaia Force, here's Crimson Blaze, or whatever it may be. Well, Crimson's not gonna kill any of them, I don't think, because of level 5s.
I don't think so. Yeah.
But like, there's what was it, Megaloblaster, Giga Blast. Like there's a lot of options to just say, I'm gonna get rid of this and it's gonna cost me kind of nothing.
Yeah.
Sure, if they hard played it, it was reduced for them, so they played 4 or 6, which is insane to say for a level 5 or level 6. But still, I feel like getting rid of them is easy, and the game doesn't have enough recursion to put it back in your hand to where like, well, now you're out of them. So I don't know. I think that the drawback is much bigger than it is in Dragon Ball, the super combos, where it's like, I have to have a certain amount of life, generally speaking. But that could just be a thing for now. Maybe if they start adding in, like if we start talking about level 4 aces, and I don't think there would ever be level 3, so that'd be weird. But like level 4 aces, then I'm like, I don't know, maybe we should take it down. But again, the overflow mechanic feels like it might be the great equalizer to where like, okay, but as soon as it's gone, you're screwed. By any means, it's gone. You're screwed.
I will say it just like it does spark the notion that like them being 4 cost feels so good, where it's like man, like even the megas are 6. 4 cost or like 6 in a good game where you both have tamers out is just passing turn essentially, and I put mega on field. I agree, overflow means that you might be able to remove it, and like I would be 4 memory in debt. But some of these level 5s, like the Magna Angemon, that feels so splashable. Like you're playing like a deck, like it almost reminds me of like weird decks that end up getting recovery, like Jessmon, where it's like, do they use it all the time? No, it's not used in like every version of the deck, but like it has the option. So now we just give like Machine Germon. Is it good just to be like, hey, you know what? I run one of these in my deck. If I see it, I get a free recovery, and it's 4 cost, which means that like quite often, if you're set to 3, you're passing them to 1.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I think that's interesting. I will obviously just have to wait to see how they play, because I think this means more removal, which means probably more security bombs. Like you're incentivized more to have security bombs, because I think
that's fair.
Security becomes once again the great equalizer of cool. You have this ace, you swing, and if it's not a Greymon, I don't know if I care, right? Because you might swing, you might just hit an Omni and die, and now you lose 4 memory. So I think to me, as much as security can be annoying, it also is why I don't think it should be limited. The more I talk about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I don't think it should be, because I just think that there are so many other equalizers in the game that only having 4, I'm like, I don't know if I would focus on building around them then and like really exploring this new mechanic if I'm only having 4 of them. But I don't know.
The payoff would have to be big, right?
Yeah. It's very interesting.
But yeah, I do think Blastace does point us in a direction of like really cool things on the horizon, and hopefully more interactivity between you and the opponent.
Yes, which I think this game needs. Cool. So I think we might actually, wow, it's only been like an hour since we started recording. I'm sure the actual YouTube video will be less.
Sure.
But unless was there anything else you guys want to kind of dive into? I think we hit some of the biggest stuff. I know we talked about Ultimate Cup deck prep and predictions. But I also feel like we kind of covered that a little bit last month. But we can jump into either of those two things if you guys like, or we can let people go early. We gotta make it sound like this is a
the meeting
call.
We're done, right?
Yeah.
Oh wait, class is done early? Hell yeah.
What? Bell hasn't rung yet. No. My only 2 cents on Ultimate Cup is we just added Beelzemon from the last Ultimate Cup. That's basically all it is. In my opinion, you're still going to see Blue Flare. Machine Germon's going to be huge. Bloom Lord's still going to be huge. And now we have Beelzemon. Red Hybrid. 2. We get Red Hybrid and we get Beelzemon, in my opinion. Now, to be fair, it's new Red Hybrid stuff. We still had Ancient Gray in the previous format, right? So essentially we still had a Red Hybrid, but
it is a new flavor.
Yes, exactly. Because you get to do different things than what the Ancient Gray did between like popping Tamer, or not popping, but like, you know, playing out Tamers and doing all things. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, I think from what I've seen, those are going to be like the 5 or 6 decks that you're going to see. You might see a Shine run here and there. Like you said, Melga's all but gone, pretty much gone. D Reaper's still going to be floating out there because it's like somebody's going to want to run a white deck. But yeah, I think ultimately Ultimate Cup doesn't really change from the last round of Ultimate Cups that we had, you know, previously.
Yeah, I mean, they banned like so Melga also has another card banned for the Ultimate Cup because they don't get Garurumon X antibody. So that I do agree with you. I feel like it's not there at all. The Death X ban is cool, but I don't know if it's as impactful as we had believed previously. I think you're right. There hasn't been enough that's come out to like besides like Red Hybrid that is mono. I mean, I guess you could potentially see Black War if they commit to like half cards, or like maybe New Wargrave if they commit to all half cards. But that also puts them in a weird build state.
Trust and believe, I know that. We've been trying to test that for a while, and it has been hell.
Fair. Yeah. I think it's gonna be all the usual bandits, and I don't know. And now Grandis may be less because Grand Kuaga banned. Beelzemon still is there because the Impmon hurts it, but it doesn't hurt enough. And Blossomon, I guess that hurts Bloomlord, who you also would have seen in Ultimate Cup.
Yeah,
No, they
Bloom
just
and
play
Hydra,
Cherrymon
too.
now.
Yeah.
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 Well, the thing that really helps out Bloomlord is you have Quartzmon. So
Yes.
so now instead of going into Hydra as your quote unquote like board control floodgater or whatever, you just go Bloom into Quartz. So and yeah, I think the Blossom hit does help. Like it does hurt a little bit, but I mean then you just use Cherrymon and just did you all for one. I mean the fact that deck can ramp up so quickly off of 1 to 2 memory, and then basically end the turn with a Quartz, it's like okay, you know. So it's still going to be. I still think it's going to be a pretty strong deck.
I think you guys have talked me into it a little bit more of like an ace you plop down for 4 sure, and then it swings into security and instantly dies and gives them 3, and you're like, cool, well, that was great while it lasted. I hope the effect was worth it. And with Quartzmon currently and other weird boogeymen around, it will be funny like if we do see hyper more removal. I don't think Digimon's ever been a format besides like Mega Zoo back in the day or security control that's just like all bombs all the time.
Yep.
So that'll be kind of like interesting to see.
Yeah, man, and I mean, again, y'all know I can't shut up about Greymon and Examon stuff, but those decks become even better, right? Because like, cool, oh, you want a bunch of removal? I don't care, because I'll just survive anyway. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how all that plays out, specifically with aces and how they work now and what kind of aces we'll get in the future. Like, are we gonna get Jogress ace things? Like, what sort of things? And then there's gonna be y'all can't be taking 2 aces and Jogressing because it's gonna be like there's 8 memory or 7 memory gone. You know, like, oh god, that's gross. Now that I think about it, like it I don't know. It just adds a certain level of like really thinking through what are you using for your materials. It goes into this deck building question. And yeah, I think aces plus ultimate cups, whenever those happen, I think that is probably a time we'll see some really interesting thing with aces, right? Because they become more important in those oldie cups, I would argue, if that format, well, I think it will stick around because we saw in Japan, they released like, they're going to be alt art black or Greymon stuff, which is the oldie cups that I will be playing in. This one that I'm in 2 weeks, y'all ain't gonna lie, if you see my name and I don't show up, I decided I'm gonna do other shit. So sorry.
I got my prize and I'm out.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited for the future of Digimon. I feel like as a whole, there's been less Digimon activity lately. In various discords and some of the tournament, like weekly tournaments, I think people are a little burnt out. But I'm hoping that EX4 will kind of reinvigorate folks. And then I think the next month we get BT13. So you know, looking forward to reigniting my enjoyment of the game, my drive to play the game as much as I'd play Dragon Ball now.
Yeah, I really had fun at the regional I went to like 2 weekends ago. But I really want more in-person events. There's something about the in-person event that the online does not scratch for me. I've been trying to get into the Ulti Cups because I used to get into them all the time, and not everybody's playing, so I'm not getting into these ones as much. But yeah, like I really wish they would bring back more because like sitting down with all new people I'd never played with like 150 dudes in a room, jamming out games, and like just shooting for the stars, like that is the hype moment. That was in the middle of my trip. It was like my Saturday, and it honestly made my day to just like play, go in, do okay in event. I hit like a personal best of 28th, but like it just feels good, and like you get to carry that around with you. Where it's like, man, I please, and Carta Magic is the only one doing stuff in the States. If you're in the States, I hope that more tournaments open up besides 3. Where it's like it's always like Florida, Texas, and somewhere else.
It's the place
other places exist.
You don't want to go.
Other places that they exist.
Oh, sorry.
I just want more. I just want more in-person locals. I'd love for someone to be able to step up and try to do more of these events.
I agree.
Well, I think that's going to happen from the top down, right? Like you need support from Bandai for locals to do it. They can't do it on their own. whether that's prize support, whether that's like we talked about an altered Nats type of structure, or I don't know. I don't know what it would entail. That's why I'm not with Bandai. I'm not with a game developer. But as a player, I know when I would go play like Pokemon heavily over the 3 or so years that I did, and I was hitting locals, multiple times a week, doing big events, and I went to a regional and all that. Yeah, I agree with you, Frawley. There was some of the best moments I had with card games, I've ever had. But Pokemon support to their locals is almost unmatched with what they do and the prize support and the everything else they do. So I'm not saying that Bandai needs to hop on the bandwagon and do exactly what they're doing or what Magic does, or they can do their own thing, but it needs to be different than what it is now, because I think that's one of the main reasons why people locals haven't tried to initiate it, because okay, cool, we can initiate it, but what do we offer our people? It's basically on us as the local to incentivize players to come in, and they can't, what's their incentive to do it, so yeah, I think it's just going to trickle down, I think, in order to do that.
100%. All right, cool, y'all. Well, on that, I think we're going to wrap for this month. Next month we will be able to cover kind of the tail end or the middle of EX4, kind of, sort of, going into BT13. I'm sure by then we'll have more info about the Blast Day stuff. I don't remember when it comes out in Japan, but I'm sure by then it will drop, so we can talk about what's going on there. If there are specific things you want us to cover, feel free to let us know in Discord, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, because some of these clips are going up on TikTok as well. So just let us know. Reach out and let us know if there's anything you guys want us to cover, or just questions, whatever. We're always happy to, maybe not always, but mostly happy to cover whatever you guys send our way. And I don't know if you guys want to have anything before we close out.
As always, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to chat with you boys. I love talking to the community. I love being able to get Digimon games in. So it's always a good time, and I hope to keep seeing this game thrive.
Yeah. I echo that. I'll say one extra thing of, we were talking before the podcast started, is I can't believe we've been doing this for 5 months. Thinking about how long, we started this as I think it was Agent who reached out to us, was like, hey, I want to do this idea. Would you guys be down for it? Yeah, let's try it out once and see what happens. And then here we are 5 months later on our 5th episode. I'm like, man, it's time goes by so fast like that. So yeah, I'm grateful for it. I'm happy to be a part of it. Like Frawley said, I'm glad to just be able to continue trying to incorporate the community and just be more I do. I love this game, and being able to do that.
I appreciate you guys coming on this journey. Good things on the horizon. I think a lot of fun stuff up ahead. Maybe other card games for us to really start diving into, especially when Lorcana comes out. Maybe next time we could talk about whatever the fuck Upper Deck is trying to do with Lorcana. That's a whole other thing. That's probably a whole other conversation we can have next time. See what more information comes out.
That's our end credit scene right there, leading into the next.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the JoJo's ending.
It was. Oh my god, it was. But all right, y'all. Thank y'all for checking it out this episode. Peace.
Goodbye.
Peace.